Alright, so yeah, there's not much else I can honestly try to think about it. So anyways, let's go ahead and meet up with Mumbo Jumbo and what have you. So once again, we need him to able to activate something for his magic, but of course we still need the Globo in order to able to give the ability to able to take control of him again. So yes, I'll accept that. And yeah, I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well, that I don't suppose I haven't exactly mentioned about this, or Joel hasn't mentioned about it either, or Mighty hasn't mentioned about it either, that recently, during the course of about 3 days ago actually, that recently the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, basically one of the episodes in Season 2, which is of course The Return of Harmony Part 2, is now a decade old, which, yeah, I can't even believe it's been about a decade ago already. Like, just like in Part 1, that basically they were like, obviously it's like, well, it's kind of hard to say, because I know it has been such a long while since I've actually seen the show. Because, usually relatively speaking, because obviously a new generation film just recently came out, also in 3 days ago as well. So either way though, let's go ahead and use the Imp magic spell with those wall crushers, and basically that will actually stop from now on until you realize is the fact that if you're trying to able to use that specific Imp magic, basically you do have a time limit. So basically we need to able to hurry back into Banjo and Kazooie again, and basically if you manage to take control of them two again, then it's your chance to able to actually turn off the actual wall crusher. So because of that though, hopefully we'll try to able to do that just straight off the bat, and then basically you have to act out fast, because if you don't make it in nick of time, then basically you're gonna have to able to start all over with that particular magic spell again. So, but thankfully we can able to actually use the warp pads, so that way we can able to make the process a bit faster. So yeah, you probably get the idea how this goes. So now every once in a while, once you try to avoid those electricity stuff, then we can activate the button, and basically that way the wall crushers will instantly switch off. So there we go, problem solved. And of course there might be still more stuff to do, such as for instance that way we can able to still do some more jiggies and what have you. Although to be fair though, because obviously that I don't suppose that I suppose I should probably mention about another thing I want to discuss. And that is the fact that someone said in the comments that, yes, indeed, is the fact that the next SpongeBob SquarePants game is a thing, but it usually is gonna call it like a brand new game, nothing like a remake or anything, because we already got a remake ever since any forms of last year. So in this case, the new game they is gonna call it is the forms of SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake. So, I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna plays out, but I do notice the fact that it does kind of reminds me of Ratchet & Clank Far Apart, or Raft Apart on the PlayStation 5. That basically it's kind of like you're able to actually go through different universes for the actual portal. So yeah, it is remarkably similar to the forms of how it does it on Ratchet & Clank Raft Apart for the PlayStation 5. Although, except the noticeable difference is the fact that with SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake, it's about to be coming out on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and the Nintendo Switch versions as well. So yeah, it is kind of similar to the forms of how it does it on the Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Like, I believe it's going to be made by the same developer, like Purple Lamp Studios, if I recall correctly, which I'm guessing is kind of cool though, but either way, let's not get ahead of ourselves for this point right now, because we ended up on, once again, the first-person view on that specific shooting section. And while we're at it though, much like the forms of how it does it on the second world, once again we have to go for a series of labyrinthy maze. Well, this time around though, rather than just trying to deal with the forms of dynamite, unlike before, instead, in order able to actually complete this objective, is the fact that we need to clear out all of these clinkers on these little air vents, as you can see there. And the best strategy for this is though, is the fact that, well, as you can tell, I'm pretty much gonna have to strictly stuck with, well, grenade eggs, because it'll do like a very, very good explosion range between either the forms of the clinkers and especially the enemies themselves too. And, Well, this actually did took me a couple of attempts on this part, actually. Mainly because of that one singular clinker that I somehow missed by. Now it's at the very top, as you see there. Like, I just already deal with that. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about the fact that, and also because this is actually the hardest of the forms of the first-person shooter maze kind of section, because unlike the second, or actually, kind of think about it though, unlike the second world actually, that's basically though, that is actually pure and simple when you get the hang of it though, whilst in this, it's a giant labyrinthy maze that you have to go through, and it's all about... Well, it doesn't really help about the fact that it doesn't give you a built-in map function, so you're gonna have to guess of where any other layouts are actually gonna be at. So, yeah, it does take you multiple attempts by able to actually do this properly, if for those who have the first time experiencing this world. So, well, good thing I've managed to stumble across the actual, one of those honeycombs items and stuff like that, which thankfully they'll give my health back, even though that... You know, it did actually took me a couple of tries in order to do it, so... Yeah, this last one, much like the dynamites though, is the fact that it's just kind of impossible to find it though at first glance, which, as a result though, that might be seems the case. At least to be more specifically, for those who have a first time experiencing those kind of segments like this. Now, I'm gonna have to able to shoot it from, like, over there, because that also technically counts or something, and that way you can able to actually complete this mission with no sweat. So, either way though, thank goodness for that, because, well, I will have to admit though, this is one of the hardest jiggies to get, although that does not apply until whenever we get towards the end of the game. Oh boy. You know, you might see nothing yet, which as a result, yeah, we'll save that until for later time. So, anyways, we got 57 jiggies so far out of 90. So because of that though, we are getting pretty close towards at the very end. So, yeah, all goes all fine and dandy and everything, despite, it did actually took me about, oh god, it almost took me about an hour to able to figure that out. For those who have a first time experiencing it. And especially noticeable, again, it doesn't have a map or anything, so you're gonna have to able to look on guides in order to able to actually find the true way by able to actually try to find the actual godforsaken clinkers right there. So yeah, that might be seems a bit too much for my liking, but either way, regardless of everything else though, we've already managed to accomplish it at least, so... Anyways, now let's go ahead and take control of Banjo alone, so we can able to actually do the next thing we need to do. That is the fact that, well, I'm pretty sure that if we're about to be hit back onto floor 2 quickly, and then, well, just trying to find something, because I'm pretty certain we do need to find another battery. And where's another battery, you're probably wondering? Well, turns out if we're gonna go all the way down there, and then every once in a while, if you manage to able to actually try to avoid those kinds of enemies like these, and sure enough, you're able to find one bouncing around the room. So in this case, there's one over there, so we can able to once again stun him if we about to be trying to hit him, if we're gonna do it properly. So there we go, and then just trying to able to activate the well, the taxi pack, so just in case we can able to actually pick it up and everything else to be more specific, so... But yeah, you totally get the idea about how the fact that sometimes backtracking can be a bit amusing in this world though, especially noticeable that, although I will have to admit though right away, I do at very least I like the theme of this world, even though it does almost reminds me of, well, Rusty Bucket Bay for a small extent, except... Well, obviously it takes place in a factory facility as opposed to in the actual wretched ship or something like that. So, well, plus some of the fact that usually, relatively speaking, that thankfully you don't need to worry about the forms of the actual frustrating generator room or the engine room section in, you know, Rusty Bucket Bay, because obviously in that particular room is hellish, because as far as what Sonic has accidentally say a swear word just because of the forms of that particular frustrating engine room section. At least to be more specifically, for those who haven't played the N64 version, because, oh man, that is just too much difficulty ramped up scenarios, which, still, I really can't deny about the fact that, you know, it can be pretty frustrating for those who have a first time experiencing it, so, depending on what version you're playing, so... Anyway, so now we got the battery, and what is that gonna lead me to? Oh, it leads me back there. So, I guess it's kind of similar to stomping planes on during the course of In the Fifth World, except the fact that, well, relatively speaking, that we don't need to worry about the forms of the actual constant getting crushed every now and then, because obviously with that particular wall crushing is switched off. So, yeah, that pretty much stopped up as such. And, I suppose another thing I should probably talk about this too, that I believe, if I recall correctly, that yes, we'll definitely indeed are about to be getting the forms of the next Disney Games compilation game. And this time, it's definitely true that Aladdin, The Lion King, and this time The Jungle Book, all three Disney classic games, all in one package game, is going to be, well, somewhat confirmed. Although, I'm not exactly sure what the release dates are going to be, but I'm pretty sure it might be at some point during the course of November, just like the forms of how it does it 2 years ago, where they just only released Aladdin and The Lion King, and not so much The Jungle Book. But thankfully, The Jungle Book games lineup is going to be the thing, of course, so at least that's something. And of course, that in addition to actually having The Jungle Book as the part of the actual, depending on what versions of the game they include, they also include some of these familiar versions of, well, let's just say, Aladdin and, I believe The Lion King, if I recall correctly. That's, well, let's start with Aladdin first. Thank God, they've now finally going to include the everyone's famous, or everyone's favorite version of Aladdin video game is the Super Nintendo version, the Capcom version as far as I like to point things out, because back in 2019, that most people seem to get criticizing about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, that the previous compilation game does not include the Super Nintendo version at all. So thankfully, in this year in 2021, at least for what I've seen the actual resources, the Super Nintendo version of Aladdin is finally coming to the actual compilation game, even on the Nintendo Switch. So yeah, you can now finally play the game on the go, so at least thankfully I don't need to pay the ridiculous amount of money for the Game Boy Advance port, aside from, you know, screen crunch, along with the actual crappy, GBA sound clips and stuff like that. So as a result though, I'm very pleased that the Super Nintendo version of Aladdin is coming on the compilation game nonetheless. Although, I've already technically downloaded this on the actual hacking onto my Super Nintendo Mini technically. So as a result though, that's pretty much as far as I can usually try to summarize as such. So, oh, this is not good. Especially noticeable that, as you can see, I accidentally managed to hit the actual toxic barrel. And the next thing you know is that what happens is that basically your air meter will start to able to drain, just like the forms of one of those sections in World 2. So yeah, and this time it just drains a lot faster, just because, well, you will die easily, just like that. Although, if you manage to able to go back into the same room again, even though that for some reason it actually took me into the actual front portion of the world, so that's why I have to do multiple jump cuts there, just because, well, again, in order to able to make the checkpoint activated, is that you can either enter in the world for the first time, or you can just simply use the split pads, so yeah, that's pretty much stuffed up as such. So yeah, there is a way you can able to actually get rid of the toxic gas. Basically, you can able to activate the fan blade switch, and basically that gets rid of the forms of the actual toxic gas. And then every once in a while though, you can have to keep on trying until, God forbid, if you're trying to get your best shot, even though, mind you, my shots itself it's not exactly the most excellent thing in the world, just because there were a few times it's all about timing and what have you. So yeah, that could be pretty much as far as I can usually try to think about when it comes to this particular room right there. Although sure enough, it will take you a couple of tries if you're trying to aim your shots just right, because as you can see, that the next objective we are doing is the fact that we need to constantly shooting those rare logo barrels, and if you're trying to keep on shooting that familiar logo on that blue barrels, basically that I'm assuming that if you're trying to hit those things long enough, or quite a few times actually, then you would able to get something rewarding, such as of course the Jiggy itself. So, and I've realized there was actually a Jinjo somewhere, which it could be either be fake or real, but either way though, let's not worry about ourselves right now, so we're just going to concentrate here, and once again I keep on getting so stupid with all these little stupid shots I keep on like having mistakes from. And, yeah, and also you got to be very careful of those cables there because they are electrocuted, so yeah, that's short something, I suppose. So, anyways, let's keep trying, and then, fortunately, though, that I seem to only got 2 health left, so hopefully I can get this last shot for good. Oh, that's not good. That is definitely not good. If you don't make it in time just like that, then you also suffered death. Okay, so I can't remember how many attempts I was going to be doing in this part because, for the love of God, I'm just getting sick of backtracking in this world. That's my only major gripe I have with this world, and that's the forms of the ridiculous amount of backtracking between, you know, every time you die, and then obviously you respawn back into the beginning portion of the world, and there's no way you can able to actually just do, like, get, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say for this point, but thankfully we did manage to able to succeed, thankfully. So, but here's the thing though: in order to able to go from here, that we do need to able to use the Clockwork Kazooie eggs. So hopefully we'll try to able to use one of those until whenever we reach onto that specific conveyors, while trying to able to aim on the specific spot. So, anyway, in addition to able to now finally bringing Aladdin onto the Super Nintendo game on a compilation game, but also they bring us into 2 versions of, between Aladdin and the Lion King, they've now included the Game Boy Color version of Aladdin and the Lion King. So, yeah, I can't wait to see how that's going to turn out in between both versions of, well, the Game Boy Color versions of the Lion King as well as, Aladdin. Now, as far as the Jungle Book, as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty darn certain that it only includes, potentially speaking, likely, 3 versions, or I have no words to think about it, because once again, I think my computer starts to lag again. But at least, thankfully, it's somewhat tolerable than the forms of how it does it from last time. So, yeah, it only brings 3 versions, much like the forms of how it does it on the previous release of both, well, let's just say the Lion King, for instance. That's basically in the previous release of the actual Disney compilation games, likely for both Aladdin and the Lion King. The Lion King only has like 3 versions throughout, if I recall correctly, and I believe Aladdin only has 2 versions, the Genesis/Mega Drive versions, along with the Game Boy version. It's kind of odd. They just somehow skipped over the I would classify for saying skipping over the NES version, because I'm presuming it's only released in Europe for Aladdin on the NES, and also that particular version of the game can be pretty clunky for certain stuff as far as I'm concerned. And also they didn't bring the Master System or the Game Gear versions of the Lion King either. So as a result though, there might be still some missing versions, but I'm perfectly fine with their specific stuff as it goes by. So anyways, let's get into the Jungle Book of these kinds of games they only include, with the 3 versions they've got. Well, first of all, they include the Super Nintendo version, much like the other 2, and another one is the Mega Drive/Genesis version, and of course the Game Boy version. Sadly, no Game Boy Color re-release either. Well, I don't know about you, because even then, I'm guessing it's probably because the Game Boy Color version of the Jungle Book doesn't exist or something. Although, then again, it has been such a long time since I actually just managed to know something Disney related. Well, aside from the forms of some of these Marvel stuff I was into at this point. Speaking of Marvel stuff though, actually, is the fact that one thing I should probably forgot to mention about, that is the fact that the new Disney Plus mini-series when it comes to Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of series, known as the Hawkeye, and basically that's gonna due out at some point in 2 months' time now. So because of that though, specifically in November, so that pretty much explains how the fact that I can pretty much guarantee I'm really hooked up to the forms of some Marvel stuff every once in a while. So yeah, you get the idea about that. So, and I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well, only 3 more days to go until No Time to Die, the James Bond film, is finally coming out in the UK. Although, for North America though, they have to wait until specifically about 11 days for now, so... But hey, at least there's something to be looking forward to as far as the James Bond fans out there, myself included. So, yeah, that seems totally awesome, so... Actually, what I meant to do here is the fact that since I somehow stepped on the switch, and then somehow if I let go of the switch, then basically that I saw the actual next Jinjo that it was usually located. So what I meant to do is I need to split up. So yeah, that can be pretty much summed up with the forms of backtracking can be quite an amusement sometimes. Well, it wasn't until whenever we get into like the final two main worlds, not counting the forms of the well, it's kind of hard to say because I know it's been 3 days ago since I actually last played this, so yeah, forgive me if I botched it, especially noticeable because obviously that I was expecting if I'd like to mention something more, but hopefully until by that time, until on Wednesday, then I'll mention something a lot. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually try and describe it. So anyways, let's walk back into floor 2 quickly, and then good thing we've already managed to able to crack the actual the box, so that way we can able to actually go down to floor 1 within a fastest, quicker way if imaginable, and that way we can able to actually just to, well, get outside and all that stuff. So hopefully we would be able to actually go ahead and well, trying to able to actually activate the switch without any cinematics popping up for time to time. And now we'll just switch over to Kazooie, so that way we can able to let her go in the same way as the forms of how it does it on Banjo alone. So, but yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to think about it. So anyways, let's go ahead and skip these guys for now with these little hovering machinery enemies. To hopefully you don't have to worry about these guys, because apart from the fact that you can able to skip them. So anyways, let's go ahead and, oh goodness gracious, that was close. And thankfully we can able to actually use those ability right there, so that way we can, you know, walk around the wall and all that stuff. And oh man, this is getting really high. This is getting really high for that height. But hey, at least we've pretty much saved the next Jinjo right there. So, darn it all! I somehow died again. Whatever. But at least, thankfully, we've managed to respawn back into the split pad, thankfully, within the quickest method if possible. So, jeez, I don't know how, but for some reason I keep on dying a lot in this world. I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure it's mainly because I'm pretty sure that one of these horrible flashbacks of Rusty Bucket Bay just managed to taunt me right now. So, although I'm pursuing that correctly, so well, it wasn't until whenever we get to almost towards the end of the game that it will start to get a little bit tricky at first glance, but as long as you weren't able to actually know where exactly you were, you might as well able to do. But let's not talk about that right now. But anyway, let's go ahead and once again take control of Mumbo Jumbo again, and this time we need to hit on to the forms of well, we need to now hit on to floor 2, and now we need to able to find the next Mumbo's pad. And because of that, how the fact that we can now able to actually go on to Electricum magnet chamber, that's what the room is called, I'm presuming, even though I do apologize for that mispronunciation of that room. So now we can able to actually, well, activate something in here. So once again it's amp, but this time it's electric no magnet. So hopefully we should try to able to like the magnets can able to, well, showed up as such. Although, just like in the forms of how it does on the Wall Crusher, basically we have to worry about the time limit as well. So, and this time, it's only up to 90 seconds, or in this case, 1 minute and 30 minutes to be more, or 30 seconds I should say. So, yeah, I do apologize for that particular tongue twist in the end, folks, because again, it's been 3 days since I actually last played this, so anyway, but at least thankfully we're still able to actually interact with the warp pad system, so that way we can able to actually traverse through different sections of the world, thankfully. So at least we can able to still do that. So now I'm pretty sure that the UK time for the actual sunset time at this point in time, the sunset is now gonna get extremely earlier, just because obviously with autumn is on the horizon, and especially noticeable about the fact that, well, at least despite the fact that we've only got about I will classify for saying by saying 34 days to go until specifically Halloween, but let's not celebrate Halloween right now, obviously, just because obviously we are still on September at the moment. Although, mind you, until this Friday, that we are about to be approaching on to October. So, yeah, I can't even believe we've almost at the fastest way by able to actually get into the 10th month of the entire, well, I would say so far a pretty decent year so far. It's certainly a bit up there than the last year was though, but then again, we'll get into the actual thoughts about it until whenever we reach at the very end of 2021, along with the forms of course, the final Let's Play, which we're not going to spoil things majorly for this point, just because, well, it's too early to predict right now. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and, well, basically we have to go up and, somehow the thing stops? Okay. So, I think it's mainly because I somehow activate something, so, yeah, thanks for that. Alright, so now it's transformed back into the normal Banjo and normal Kazooie again, and well, we're not going to be able to actually use the washing machine transformation until for likely later on whenever we're done with more objectives, so we'll try to able to come back for it until for later, so... Anyways, let's go into floor 1 here. And basically, now we can able to actually explore onto the, well, let's just say the previous section that we've technically already been. That's of course the air conditioning plant. And basically, now we can able to do some more stuff there, because after all, we can now able to actually go into, I actually couldn't think about it, I think it's this section right there that I've seemed to recognize this particular section, because I've seen some speedrunners out there were attempting to able to get the next Cheeto page, which I think the next Cheeto page is actually going to be, well, let's just say in this room. And I believe if you go straight towards the actual spinning thing right there, then basically that's where the next Cheeto page was. But obviously we're not going to focus on that casually, so I'm just going to have to able to do the normal fashion way by not able to do a massive fall damage or anything. So anyways, let's go and climb down, and sure enough, I'm presuming this is where the next boss fight is actually located. And some people seem to say this is by far the hardest boss fight in the entire game. Like, potentially the hardest. Because obviously that will try to able to mention more about it, assuming if he gets closer and closer and closer, so... Yeah, look at him, just most able to have struggling, just able to actually just to move forward and such. Which, I must admit though, I'm feeling incredibly bad for this guy. Despite the fact that he has no hands, or no legs, or none of these things whatsoever. Wilder? Okay, so he's like a, extinguisher torch kind of, fella. So, yeah, I guess there's one thing for it that we can able to deal the damage on him, and that's something related to explosion or something. Although, mind you, that I, wasn't exactly sure of what I was expecting it to do, but anyway, without further ado, while we try to skip the actual dialogue, then we get into the actual boss fight proper. And as I said before, this is easily the hardest boss fight in the game for some people, especially noticeable because he has a lot of attacks ranging from the actual spinning projectiles, and if you manage to get sucked into the forms of the actual welder itself, then you lose a bit of health. So as a result though, thankfully he has like 6 health. So yeah, pretty much exactly like the Forms of Power does it from any kind of boss fights in particular, aside from the fact that sometimes he can be pretty fast at points, especially noticeable when he was trying to suck you up, so, or vacuum you up. So the only way you can damage him is the fact that as soon as he starts to do the actual vacuuming thing, and it's your chance to able to deliver the actual grenade egg right back at him, and that way it'll deal 1 damage. And basically every once in a while though is the fact that, did he mention nuts and bolts? Oh jeez, don't even mention about that specific rebooted game, please. Anyway, enough about that, but that's not going to be discussed anytime soon, because obviously we're not exactly there yet. So anyway, sometimes we're actually going to be divided into like 3 phases, like for instance, the first phase is pretty simple, aside from the fact that with this hard, unpredictable projectile to dodge. And the second phase is going to be involved around you're going to have to deal with the forms of enemies before you deal with the real hit on Welder. And then on the third phase, basically he just managed able to springs up in the air for a bit, and then when he lands on the ground, and you're gonna have to run away from him. And chances are that if you don't manage to able to dodge him or try to run away from him long enough, then basically though that's well, if he starts to able to actually just to trying to smash you just like that, and you have to run away from him while he keeps on hopping and hopping, and then after when he does that though, he always goes to the center of the arena, and basically it's your chance to able to actually send a grenade egg right into its mouth, and that actually deals the damage. But that doesn't end off here though, because you're able to actually activate something a bit difficult for us. That is trying to dodge those electric floors, and that makes things a lot tougher, especially just like, well, just like that. Especially noticeable, it can be pretty unpredictable right there. Okay, sorry for this another jump cut at this point, just because, well, I just made it back into the actual boss fight alone. And yeah, I can definitely see why that this boss fight is one of the hardest in the game. Just because, again, with the unpredictable projectile attack that he's constantly shooting at you, and as well as from that though, is the fact that sometimes you always have to deal with so much of it sometimes. Well, at the very least, that this boss fight can be pretty entertaining to fight. Although, mind you, despite the fact it can be pretty tough at times for those who have a first time experiencing the game, either on the N64 version or the Xbox various systems, but aside from that, yeah, it's a pretty cool boss fight, I'm not gonna lie, despite it's pretty tough. So, yeah, that pretty much as far as I can usually try to describe it. So, yeah, aside from all that stuff though, unfortunately, there's not much else I can possibly try to talk about, because, well, I've already mentioned quite a few things here and there, although, mind you, I haven't really talked about that much, although, to be fair, that Joel has talked about a lot of the forms of Mario's playthrough, so, yeah, it totally makes it a bit obvious for the sake of time, so, anyway, so looks like that he's almost down, so just for the sake of the matter of the fact that we still need to able to deal with, like, well, the ridiculous amount of damage hits right there, and especially noticeable that, well, again, it can be pretty unpredictable at points, because sometimes that you have to, like, specifically try to dodge at one point, so... But yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to think about for this boss fight. It's actually, like, kind of fun if you're trying to dodge most of this stuff, what you expect, but still, I just, you know, trying to have to concentrate hard, because otherwise, if I keep on getting hit a lot over and over and over again, and then I'll have to do the entire boss fight again. Although, it's nothing that long though with the entire boss fight, even though thankfully we don't need to worry about the forms of the first person view aiming again, unlike the forms of how it does in one of the boss fights in Jolly Roger's Lagoon and stuff like that. So, anyway, let's go deal with this last hit here. And I believe he's done. So, because he's only got, you know, 6 hits and stuff. And then once that's been done, then he activates something electrical on that particular cables and such. And I believe that those little spinny wheel stuff is about to slow down, or I'm pretty sure it stopped. So, and the doors is now usually reopened, and that will pretty much gonna lead us to the next Jiggy over there. So that means we can now able to actually go back up there too. So, oh, look at the Wilder's face right there. Grr, I appear to be quite badly injured. That's too bad. Now, where's our prize? I guess I can let you have this. In this case, the only reward by defeating him is of course the shock jump, so is that all we get? Yeah, I'm afraid so, Kazooie. Although, despite the fact that we can still able to get the Jiggy, of course, so... Anyway, so, take that, you miserable, mechanical, monster. So, anyway, so now we're done with that, and get some more health back after getting, like, so many hits from that particular boss fight alone. Seriously, that boss fight is pretty tough. But, regardless of such though, we've pretty much almost done with the boss fights in the whole entire game. There's still quite a few bits to go, still, but, you know, we've still got a whole ways to go, so... Anyways, let's climb all the way back up, and, well, first of all, before we get the next Jiggy, we need to get ourselves our next Cheeto page. And thankfully, it's pretty simple. Just get out to make your way there, and jump for it, and there we go. And I think that's every single Cheeto page books, or Cheeto pages in Grunty Industries, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, pretty top-notch, all things considered. Although, again, for I've seen, you know, several speedrun videos of Banjo-Tooie, that somehow they managed able to get the Cheeto book just before the boss fight starts. So, yeah, that seems very impressive if they managed able to do that way of doing it. So, anyway, actually gonna think about it before we do anything else. Let me double check on the other room that I might be curious to check out, and that will have to be, oh jeez, let me guess, it doesn't seem to able to let me get out of there. Oh jeez. Although we can able to double check in that room over there, which is, it appears to be by the forms of waste disposal plant, which, if you couldn't tell, I'm presuming one of the Jiggies is in there. Although, if you try to swim underneath it, it's all toxic, so yeah, there's no point for able to doing this right now, because obviously if you keep on, like, trying to dive into something, and then it'll just immediately just try to launch you, like, just like that, like a massive launch. So, yeah, that seems kind of, like, weird and all that stuff. Although, I think there's actually that ability that we can only learn if we managed to try to do this or something. Although, mind you, because it's been 3 days since, you know, I've last played this, so yeah, there's nothing we can do there. And plus, somehow we got an air meter already active, so, but it's already disappeared, so that seems kind of worthless to able to actually double check in here in the first place. So we'll just drown to death, and then basically we'll just do something else instead. So, at least, thankfully, we've gone back into the beginning portion of the world, so there's nothing we need to, like, raged about. So, anyways, let's go ahead and use the warpath thing again, and try to warp into Humble Wumba's tent right there, just almost nearby to it. So I suppose the next objective we can now do, and that is the fact that we need to rely on the washing machine transformation. And remember the forms of those specific rabbit workers that we technically already seen? Well, turns out we need to able to actually sort these guys by simply able to give them an extra clean look. So, yeah, we'll try to do that just about right now. So, I believe the first rabbit is just right here. So, once you talk to him, then you'll pretty much guarantee we can able to already give these overalls a bit of a wash. And then once you've done that, well, there's no button inputs on the actual, like, washing clothes and stuff like that. It just does it for you. So just like that. And boom, we've managed able to give that one a clean. Although, mind you, it's the fact that we need to able to do is like, I would say 5 times or something, or 4 times. Although, maybe I've miscalculated of how many of those, you know, worker rabbits we need to find. So, yeah, I guess we still need able to do a ridiculous amount of backtracking between, you know, multiple floors to traverse and all that stuff though, which, if this will be on the Switch or something, I honestly don't mind. But if it's on, like, home consoles in particular, it can really, take a time to able to actually get a lot of, usage of, backtracking sometimes. But, either way, let's go ahead and use the service elevator to able to go from one floor to the other. So, hopefully we should able to actually just try to find the next, rabbit worker by I somehow forgot to jump. Clearly because of how the fact that because I wasn't paying attention to the actual, like, the camera depth perception or something. But hey, at least we've already managed able to meet up with another one of those rabbits here. So once again we'll give that a wash, and well, that's pretty much the next one. And I suppose we've already got about 4 left, if I recall, even though I wasn't paying attention to the actual text box. So anyways, I believe the next rabbit worker is just in here in the workers' quarters. So, yeah, let's get out to avoid that particular electricity thing right there. And, well, we're just gonna have to hit on to the right. And, wow, he got a whole bunch of those mumbo-jumbo images on that wallpaper. yeah, I can definitely see why that this game has a lot of charm, which as a result, unlike Nuts and Bolts, that it does feel a lack of charm just because of the films of I'm not a big fan of rebooted series or something, so... But that's just me. Anyway, so now we've done that, and I think we only got 3 left, so we'll just go ahead and go to floor 3, and potentially speaking, we can probably guaranteed that we can able to actually just hear something from the distance there, which if it's either fake or real, although I'm pretty sure it might be actually be fake or real. Or actually, gotta think about it though, let me oh, okay, so that way we can able to actually open up the next room, and that will pretty much take us to the boiler plant, and yeah, with these little red cross symbols on the actual security doors, these can only be active if you only become bubbly washing machine transformation as Banjo. So yeah, I believe we only got 2 left. So yeah, once we're done with that, then we are basically gonna get ourselves our next Jiggy. So access granted, yes, of course, because I was a washing machine, well, furniture, mechanical, furniture, so, anyways, let's go and hop into the elevator again, and this time we'll hit on to, floor 5, so, yeah, 5th floor indeed. Although, do I ever explored, floor 5, if I recall, or maybe I somewhat did? Well, potentially speaking, I've only just here for the sake of, like, trying to get the forms of a Jiggy or something, or a Jinjo, or whatever, but that again has been 3 days, so... Anyways, let's try to sort out another bunny worker. So, yeah, I'm presuming it's like, 6 bunny workers, or the rabbit workers that we have to able to give those a clean, so... Yeah, we only got 1 left, and if you're probably wondering, where is the last one? Well, I believe it's going to be on somewhere in floor 1. So at least first of all, I need to do a bit of a navigation problems right there at the moment. But regardless of such though, yeah, that pretty much is as far as I can usually try to say about this from here. So, anyways, let's hit into floor 2 quickly. And then, since we're on the 2nd floor, so that means we can now able to actually just go to the alternative way. To able to actually, like, go all the way to the 1st floor, so, well, of course, though, I still need able to actually get rid of that box, but thankfully we can, with, the actual underwear projectile, or the pants attack, if you want to be more precise with that specific ability, what it does, so... Anyway, so now we got out of there, and thankfully, if you become a washing machine transformation, if you stumble across the actual Munchy water lake, you'll be harmless for that. So, and of course, that he was being naked without any like worker clothes and stuff. So, and there we go. We basically done all 6 of those worker washing stuff. So, hooray, we're now on to 60 Jiggies out of, well, 90. It's just there's only like 13 more to go. So, yeah, I can't believe we actually done for those objectives quite fast at one point. Although, sure, there might be some slow parts, mainly due to the forms of backtracking and stuff like that, but regardless of such though, it's not too bad. Well, despite, you know, a bit of backtracking like I said earlier, so, but, yeah, it's an alright world. I mean, I wouldn't personally like it as much as the forms of the future worlds that we can probably get into, or the previous worlds for that matter. Well, mainly because of how the fact that sometimes, although the theme itself is interesting, don't get me wrong, and the music is pretty, nice to listen to, but aside from that, the amount of backtracking you have to do is just ridiculous sometimes, so, but that's just me. But of course, since that's we've managed able to get into this place as in the first visit, so that means if we have a look on the views total that we've got, obviously we have not collected anything, so we've only got 2 Jiggies to go, and I've spent 2 hours and 18 minutes on this world. At least I have to do multiple jump cuts within, well, let's just say the worst example with this is though, is the maze section with, you know, you're trying to deal with the forms of clingers right there. So, yeah, I wasn't too pleased about that length. So, But regardless of such though, I'm pretty sure we've almost done with that world. So, anyways, before we end off the video there, let me just go ahead and deal with the forms of the next Jiggy Wiggy challenge. In this case, Jiggy Wiggy challenge number 9. In this case, we only need to acquire 55 Jiggies in order able to actually do this challenge. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure we've almost done with these challenges like this, especially that we're on the 9th one. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of puzzle challenges like this time around. So, I guess this is like a cool thing to notice, despite the fact there's a lack of challenge due to, like, no rotating pieces around, or basically it's the fact that it always goes in the same place if you pay attention to the actual imagery and such. So, yeah, that's as far as I'm totally okay with it, so. Alright, so let's go ahead and insert some more pieces there, and, well, assuming if my thumbstick doesn't drift as much. Oh, nope, that's the wrong piece. There we go. And right there. And another one over there. And the last piece should go right here. So there we go. We've completed challenge 9. So, yeah, pretty swell, I have to say so. Despite the fact that I have to do a ridiculous amount of, like, you know, backtracking on that previous world that we've already done. Well, to be more specifically, Grunty Industries. So, behold the power of the mighty Jiggy Wiggy. And that's gonna open up the, well, let's say the next world, but it's not necessarily the actual main collectathon world, but it's to be more specifically when if you get towards the end of the game or something. And this is, by the forms of what I've seen the actual, the text, Portrait Keep. That could be interesting to look at. Although, then again, we're not going to go in there just yet, though, just because there are still some more Jiggies to collect, so. And if sure enough, we need to get ourselves, I don't know how many Jiggies we need to get to do the 10th challenge. 70! That's exactly what I just said. 70 Jiggies in order able to finish the main game. So, but of course we'll save that for later. So, I've literally got 10 left, so, in order able to actually complete this. So, yeah. I suppose we come with us. So, yeah, join me next time on Let's Play Banjo-Tooie. Next, get on to the 7th world, known as Hellfire Peaks. So, I'll see you guys on another day.